In a quaint little village nestled between rolling hills and thick forests, there lived a kind-hearted maid named Alara. Her days were filled with hard work, cleaning the grand manor owned by the wealthy Lord Thorn, while most of her time was spent tending to the needs of the household. Alara always found moments to share warmth and kindness with others. She often brought smiles to the faces of the children in the village, with her gentle laughter and sweet treats she baked on her rare days off. Alara had a daughter named Lila, a bright-eyed girl with an adventurous spirit. Lila was full of questions, always eager to explore the world around her. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. Every day after school, she would rush home, bursting with excitement about what she had learned or seen that day. Yet, despite all her curiosity about the world outside their cozy cottage, Lila was equally fascinated by the secrets that swirled around her mother. "Mom, why do you always wear long sleeves?" Lila would ask as they sat together by the fireplace on chilly evenings. The flickering light cast shadows on Alara's face, making her look both wise and mysterious. She would smile softly, but never quite answer Lila's question directly. Alara had a secret, one that she kept hidden from everyone, even from her own daughter. On her wrist, just beneath the fabric of her sleeve, lay an unusual mark that resembled a crescent moon intertwined with delicate vines. It was a symbol passed down through generations of women in her family, but its true meaning was lost to time. Alara often felt its power pulsing beneath her skin, yet she knew better than to speak of it. The villagers whispered tales of magic and danger connected to such marks. They spoke of legends where those who bore them were destined for extraordinary paths. As Lila grew older, she began to notice things that seemed out of place in their everyday lives. Sometimes when she looked at her mother's hands while they cooked together in the kitchen, or when Alara tucked Lila into bed at night, she would catch a glimpse of that mark. It sparked questions in her mind like fireflies lighting up the dark. "Mom," Lila said one evening as they prepared dinner together, "do you think I will have a mark like yours one day?" Alara paused for a moment, placing a wooden spoon down as she met her daughter's curious gaze. "Every person has something special about them," she replied gently. "Some may show it on the outside, others keep it hidden." Lila tilted her head thoughtfully. "But what if it means something important? What if it connects us to something magical?" Alara chuckled softly, but felt a twinge of worry in her heart. She wanted to protect Lila from the burdens and fears that came with knowing too much, too soon, especially since rumors floated through their village about dark creatures lurking in nearby woods. Despite Alara's hesitations, Lila's imagination only grew wilder with each passing day. After school, she often spent hours wandering through the enchanting forest bordering their village, searching for hidden wonders and dreaming up stories about knights and fairies. One sunny afternoon, while exploring deeper than ever before, Lila stumbled upon an ancient oak tree with twisted roots and shimmering leaves. As she approached it curiously, she felt an odd sensation wash over her, a feeling that something significant lay just beyond reach. "Maybe I'll find a secret just like my mom's," she thought excitedly. As days turned into weeks, Lila's fascination only deepened. She started asking more questions about family history during their quiet evenings together, questions that made Alara's heart ache with both love and protection. "Mom," Lila asked one night while snuggled under blankets adorned with stars, "what would you do if someone special came looking for you? Someone who understood your mark?" Alara looked out through their window at the moonlit sky before answering softly. I would tell them that my heart is full of love for those I hold dear. Lila nodded seriously, but couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to discover about both herself and her mother's past. An adventure waiting just beyond their cozy home. Little did they know that soon enough, fate would weave their lives into a tapestry filled with magic and mystery. A journey that began with an innocent question and would lead them toward an extraordinary encounter neither could have imagined. As the days turned into weeks, Lila's curiosity about her mother's mark grew stronger. Every time she caught a glimpse of it, she felt a flutter of excitement mixed with wonder. Alara had always worn long sleeves, but there were moments when the fabric would slip just enough for Lila to see the edge of the mark. A crescent moon wrapped in delicate vines that seemed to shimmer slightly in the light. One evening, while they were preparing dinner together, the warm glow from the fireplace flickered across the room, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Lila watched as Alara stirred a pot of stew, her sleeves rolled up just a bit higher than usual. Lila could see the mark peeking out like a secret waiting to be discovered. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Lila said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alara turned, her eyes soft yet cautious. "Of course, sweetheart. What does your mark mean? Why do you keep it hidden?" Lila's heart raced with anticipation. She had never dared to ask so directly before. Alara hesitated, her expression growing serious. "It's a family secret, Lila. A mark like this carries histories and stories that are sometimes better left untold. But I want to know. It feels like it's part of me, too," Lila insisted, a hint of frustration creeping into her voice. "What if it connects us to something magical, something amazing?" Alara knelt beside her daughter, brushing a loose strand of hair behind Lila's ear. "Every person has their own story and their own magic," she replied gently. "Some stories are just harder to share." Lila pouted for a moment, but then looked down at her own wrist, imagining what it might feel like to have a mark that held power and mystery. "I wish I could see it," she said quietly. "I wish I could understand it." That night, as Lila lay in bed, she couldn't shake off the feeling that the mark was more than just a family secret. It was a doorway to adventure. Her dreams were filled with images of enchanted forests and ancient spells, and she felt as though the mark was calling to her, urging her to seek out the truth. The following day, driven by curiosity, Lila decided to explore more about her family's history. After school, she ventured to the village library, an old stone building filled with dusty books that smelled of parchment and ink. She spent hours flipping through pages of faded manuscripts and yellowed scrolls, searching for any mention of her mother's mark or tales of women in their family. She stumbled upon a book titled Legends of the Enchanted, which spoke of powerful symbols and marks. One passage caught her eye. Those who bear the crescent mark are believed to be connected to ancient magic, guardians of secrets that can shape the world. Lila's heart raced with excitement. Could this be what her mother's mark represented? The thought filled her with energy and determination. She couldn't wait to share her discovery with Alara. When she returned home later that evening, Lila found Alara sitting by the fireplace, mending an old dress. The warm light enveloped them both as Lila burst in, practically bouncing on her feet. "Mom, you won't believe what I found," she exclaimed breathlessly. Alara looked up with a smile, but also a hint of apprehension in her eyes. "What is it, dear?" "I read about marks like yours. They're magical. They connect us to ancient powers," Lila said, her words tumbling out in a rush. Alara's hands paused mid-stitch, and she placed the dress on her lap. "Lila, some things are best left untouched," she cautioned gently. But Mom, Lila pressed on, what if it means we're part of something extraordinary? What if we could discover more? Ilara sighed softly as she glanced down at her wrist, where the mark lay hidden beneath layers of fabric. She felt torn between wanting to protect Lila from potential dangers and recognizing her daughter's unwavering spirit and thirst for knowledge. Perhaps one day, Ilara said at last, you will learn more about our family's history when you're ready. Lila's eyes sparkled with hope as she nodded. She knew deep down that their lives were intertwined with something special, a legacy waiting for them to uncover. That night, as she drifted off to sleep, dreams of adventure danced in her mind once more, filling her heart with anticipation for what lay ahead. Lila lay awake in bed that night, the events of the day swirling in her mind like a tempest. The mysterious mark on her mother's wrist, the legends of ancient magic, and now thoughts of the Vampire King filled her heart with excitement. She pulled her blanket around her tightly, imagining what it would be like to meet such a powerful figure, if he even existed at all. Early the next morning, curiosity drove Lila back to the village library. She couldn't shake the feeling that understanding more about the Vampire King might connect them to her mother's mark in some way. Bursting through the heavy wooden doors, she wasted no time searching for anything that would help illuminate this dark and fascinating subject. Lila found an old tome, dusty from years of neglect, on a high shelf. She pulled it down and coughed as a cloud of dust surrounded her. The title read, Tales of Darkness and Light. As she flipped through its pages, she discovered stories of powerful beings who roamed the night, particularly one tale that stood out above the others, the legend of the Vampire King. According to the ancient story, many centuries ago, a ruler known as the Vampire King reigned over an enchanted realm filled with dark forests and hidden valleys. He was not merely a creature of shadows. He was said to possess incredible magical abilities that allowed him to bend nature to his will. The tales claimed that he could control storms and summon creatures to do his bidding, making him both revered and feared by all who entered his land. What captured Lila's attention most was the description of his mark, a crescent moon entwined by thorny vines, the same symbol that she had seen on her mother's wrist. The text explained how this mark signified a deep connection to ancient magic and destiny. Long ago, the passage read, the Vampire King bore this mark as a symbol of his extraordinary lineage. It was said that those who shared this mark were destined for greatness or misfortune, depending on their choices. Lila felt shivers run down her spine as she continued reading. There were whispers in the village that if one managed to find the Vampire King, they could gain access to unimaginable powers or knowledge. Excitement bursting within her, Lila rushed home after gathering all her notes from the library. As she entered their cottage, she found Ilara sitting at their small table with a look of concentration on her face, while carefully mending fabric. "Mom," Layla exclaimed, breathless from anticipation as she practically tossed her notes onto the table. "I found out about the Vampire King." Ilara looked up from her work, concern igniting in her eyes. "The Vampire King? Lila, you should be careful with those stories. They often come with warnings." "But Mom, the legend says he has a mark just like yours, and it's tied to amazing powers." Lila pressed on eagerly as she sifted through pages filled with handwritten notes and illustrations she'd gathered. Ilara sighed deeply, but didn't dismiss Lila's excitement outright. "The stories are dangerous. They twist fate for those who seek power without understanding." "But what if it connects us? What if our family history is part of something greater?" Lila insisted, wanting desperately for Ilara to share in her thrill. Her mother placed down her sewing needle and hesitated before replying softly. The Vampire King may be powerful and full of magic, but power can corrupt those who are not careful. Feeling frustrated yet determined, Lila took a step closer to Alara's side. But think about it. If I can uncover more about him and about our mark, we can learn why it's so special. Alara studied Lila's eager expression carefully before deciding what course of action they should take next. All right, she finally agreed, after what felt like an eternity. But we must tread carefully. Knowledge comes with its own risks. With newfound resolve sparking between them like electricity in the air, they began weaving together bits and pieces of what they both knew. The stories Alara had heard growing up combined with Lila's fresh findings from books, and formed a plan. They decided their first step would be exploring deeper into the forest surrounding their village, where rumors whispered of places where magic still thrived, a place where perhaps echoes of the past lingered around every tree trunk and stone. As evening approached and stars began to twinkle above them like distant lanterns lighting their path ahead, they prepared themselves for adventure. An exploration driven not just by curiosity, but also guided by hope that maybe they could unlock secrets long buried and reconnect with their family's lost legacy, tied intricately to that legendary figure, the Vampire King. The next day, Lila and Alara stepped into the enchanted forest, sunlight filtering through the dense canopy above, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. Lila's heart raced with anticipation as they ventured deeper into the woods, her mind buzzing with thoughts of what they might find. The air was thick with the scent of moss and wildflowers, each breath filling her with an exhilarating sense of possibility. "Stay close to me, Lila," Alara instructed softly, her voice laced with both caution and excitement. They walked along a narrow path lined with ancient trees, whose twisted roots reached out, like hands grasping for secrets hidden within the earth. As they explored, Lila couldn't help but wonder if she might catch a glimpse of something magical. Perhaps the very mark that connected her mother to the Vampire King. She imagined what it would be like if she stumbled upon him while wandering through the woods, her mind filled with images of grand castles and swirling shadows. After a while, Alara paused to examine some unusual flowers that bloomed brightly despite the shaded surroundings. "These are rare," she mused quietly as she touched the petals gently. Lila stood slightly apart from her mother, captivated by the sounds of nature around her. The rustle of leaves in the breeze and the distant chirping of birds weaving a melody of enchantment. A soft crunching sound interrupted her thoughts, drawing Lila's attention to a nearby thicket where bushes swayed as though something large had pushed through them. Her heart raced with curiosity as she crept closer to investigate, forgetting all about her mother's warning to stay close. Suddenly, out from behind the thick underbrush emerged a tall figure draped in dark clothing that blended seamlessly with the shadows around him. As he stepped into the light, Lila's breath caught in her throat. The figure had striking features. His pale skin contrasted sharply against his deep-set eyes that glimmered like emeralds under sunlight. A crown made of twisted branches adorned his head, a regal yet fearsome visage that made him look every bit like a king. "Who dares wander into my domain?" he asked in a voice that was smooth yet commanding. Lila stood frozen in place for a moment before gathering enough courage to speak. I'm Lila," she stammered. "I didn't mean to intrude. I was exploring with my mom." Alara approached cautiously behind Lila, sensing tension in the air, but also recognizing who stood before them. "Your Majesty," she said formally, dipping into a slight curtsy despite her surprise. The Vampire King studied them both carefully, his sharp gaze resting on Alara's wrist, where fabric had slipped just enough to reveal her mark. The crescent moon entwined with vines. He shifted his attention back to Lila, intrigue sparking in his eyes. The girl bears a resemblance, not just to you, but also carries an aura I recognize. Lila's heart raced as she took a step closer. You have the same mark. My mom has it too. The Vampire King raised an eyebrow, surprised yet intrigued by this revelation. Interesting, he replied slowly, leaning forward as if drawing closer to unraveling a riddle only half told. What do you know of this mark? It signifies much more than mere decoration. Alara exchanged quick glances with Lila before answering cautiously. We are just beginning to understand its significance and its connection to your legend. He smiled slightly at their uncertainty, but continued speaking softly yet powerfully. Many seek power without understanding its cost. It is wise to tread carefully on paths entwined with magic. I want to know. I want to discover what it means, Lila exclaimed earnestly as her excitement bubbled over. Curiosity can lead one down dark paths, he warned gently, but noted the spark in her eyes reminiscent of bravery mixed with naivety, qualities he recognized in himself long ago. For an instant, time seemed suspended as an unexpected bond formed between them, curiosity intertwining their fates by threads unseen. Perhaps fate has led us together today, he mused thoughtfully after moments passed silently between them. If you truly wish for knowledge and adventure, then maybe I can help you both. Alara's protective instincts flared at his offer, yet she felt drawn into his presence alongside Lila's eagerness for answers. Will you teach us? Lila asked eagerly, without hesitation. The Vampire King regarded them both and nodded slowly. A decision made not just for himself, but for those who held such powerful marks within their bloodlines. Meet me here at dusk tomorrow. There is much we can explore together. With that promise hanging in the air like magic waiting to unfold, he melted back into shadows among trees. But not before offering one last glance, filled not just with mystery, but also friendship that would change their lives forever. As they turned back toward home, hand in hand, Alara busy contemplating this unexpected turn of events, Lila couldn't stop beaming at what lay ahead. An enchanting journey forged through friendship that would lead them deep into magic's embrace and toward discovering who they truly were destined to become. The next evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Lila and Alara returned to the enchanted forest, their hearts filled with anticipation. They found a serene glade where soft beams of moonlight broke through the branches, illuminating the path ahead. Lila's excitement was palpable, her heart racing as she thought about meeting the Vampire King again. Do you think he'll really teach us about our marks? Lila asked, her eyes shining with hope. Alara nodded, but remained cautious. It's important to remember that magic can be unpredictable. We must stay wise and vigilant. As they waited in the glade, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves around them, creating a symphony of whispers. Suddenly, out of the shadows, stepped the Vampire King, his presence commanding yet strangely calm. The dark fabric of his cloak flowed like smoke around him, and his emerald eyes sparkled in the moonlight. Welcome back, he said smoothly, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. I see both of you have come prepared for new knowledge. Yes, Lila exclaimed eagerly. We want to learn about our marks and what they mean. The Vampire King gestured for them to sit around a small clearing where soft grass carpeted the ground. As they settled down, Lila couldn't help but notice how at ease she felt in his presence. like he held not just power, but also understanding. The Vampire King began speaking about ancient magic and its connection to their world. He described how each mark represented unique abilities and destinies that were intertwined with their family histories. Many who bear these marks are destined to either protect or transform, he explained deeply. As they listened closely, Lila felt her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't hold back any longer. This was her moment. "Your Majesty," she said boldly, "you have the same mark as my mother. My mom has a crescent moon entwined with vines on her wrist, too." A sudden silence fell over the glade, and for a brief moment, it appeared as if time had stopped. The Vampire King's eyes widened slightly as he regarded Lila with an intensity that made her feel both exhilarated and nervous. "Your mother has this mark?" he asked slowly, leaning closer to grasp the weight of her words. "Does she bear it openly, or does she hide it?" "She hides it," Lila replied quickly. "She has always worn long sleeves because she doesn't want anyone to see it." A flicker of understanding crossed the Vampire King's face as he sat back slightly, contemplating her answer. "It seems fate has intertwined your paths more than merely through coincidence," he murmured. Alara's brow furrowed in concern as she sensed something profound in his reaction. "What does this mean? Why is it significant?" He took a deep breath, contemplating how much to reveal. The crescent mark is very rare and is often linked to families who have played pivotal roles in ancient conflicts between light and darkness. His voice grew somber as he spoke. Those who possess this mark are often sought after for their abilities, both for good and for ill. Lila felt a mix of amazement and fear wash over her. She had no idea their family history might be so impactful. But why would anyone want to use it for bad? "It's just a mark." "Ah," he responded gently yet gravely. "It is not merely a mark. It symbolizes potential that can be twisted by greed or desire for power." He paused before continuing softly. "Your mother must have kept it hidden for reasons that extend beyond your understanding." Lila shifted uncomfortably at this revelation, but remained determined to understand more. Will we learn how to use our ability? How we can protect ourselves? The Vampire King regarded her with admiration for her bravery and determination. "Yes," he said after a moment. "But remember that knowledge requires responsibility." Just then, Ilara squeezed Lila's hand tightly as a wave of protectiveness emanated from her. She knew they were entering dangerous territory, a realm where secrets lay thick among shadows. "Your journey will not be easy," the Vampire King warned as he leaned forward slightly again, his voice low but confident. "But if you agree to join me in exploring your powers, I promise you will discover not just what resides within you, but also an understanding of why your family has been marked by destiny." Lila's heart soared at his offer, while Ilara felt torn between wanting to safeguard her daughter from potential danger, yet recognizing the allure of knowledge before them. "Okay," Lila said resolutely after taking a deep breath. "We'll do it together." In that moment of agreement forged under shimmering stars above, Lila felt an invisible thread bind her fate with that of both Ilara's legacy and that enigmatic figure, the Vampire King, who would guide them deeper into their shared mystery. With courage dancing in their hearts, they stood together, poised for discovery on an adventure destined to change everything they thought they knew about themselves and their family history. As the moon hung high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the glade, Lila and Ilara sat across from the Vampire King, anticipation crackling in the air like electricity. Leila's heart raced as she thought about the secrets that were about to unfold, while Ilara felt an uneasy mix of excitement and caution. The Vampire King leaned forward, his emerald eyes shimmering with a depth of knowledge that seemed to reach back through time. "You have both shown great courage in seeking answers," he began, his voice smooth yet powerful. "The marks you bear are not just symbols. They are threads woven into an ancient tapestry of fate." Leila leaned closer, eager to grasp every word. "But what does it mean? Why do my mother and I share this mark?" The Vampire King took a moment, gazing thoughtfully into the distance before speaking again. "Long ago, before the age of darkness fell upon our realms, there was a prophecy. A prophecy that spoke of a lineage marked by a crescent moon entwined with vines. This lineage was destined to shape the balance between light and dark." Ilara's breath caught in her throat as she glanced at Leila, who was wide-eyed with curiosity. "What did this prophecy say?" she asked, needing to know more. "It foretold that the bearers of this mark would possess the power to either protect their world from darkness or allow it to consume everything," he explained, his tone growing serious. "Your family's mark signifies not only potential, but also responsibility. It is said that when united with another bearer of the same mark, their powers would amplify, creating a force capable of great change." Leila's mind raced at the thought of such power within her own family. "So, we're part of something important? Something magical?" She felt a swell of pride mixed with apprehension. "Yes," the Vampire King replied, nodding slowly. "But with power comes danger. Many have sought to control those marked by the crescent moon for their own desires. Greed can twist even the purest intentions." Ilara shifted uncomfortably at his words, her protective instincts flaring up once again. "How do we know we can trust you?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. The Vampire King raised his hand slightly in a gesture of peace. "I am not your enemy. Rather, I am a guardian of these ancient truths. I knew your mother long ago," he revealed, looking directly at Ilara now. "She was strong and fearless, a protector of our realm during times of upheaval." Ilara's eyes widened in disbelief. "You knew me?" "Indeed," he said softly. "In another time, you fought alongside others who bore similar marks. Together, you defended against forces that sought to plunge our worlds into chaos." Leila watched her mother closely. She could see the memories flickering across Ilara's face like shadows dancing in the firelight. "But why haven't you told me any of this?" Leila pressed gently. Ilara looked conflicted, emotions swirling within her. "I wanted to shield you from the burdens tied to our past. I thought hiding my mark would keep you safe from those who might seek it. But hiding it has only made things more complicated," Leila exclaimed, her frustration bubbling over. "We deserve to know who we are and what we're capable of." The Vampire King nodded in agreement. "You are right, child. Knowledge is power, and safety lies in understanding who you are meant to be." He turned his gaze back to Ilara, his expression softening slightly. "It is time to embrace the legacy that has been passed down through generations. The world needs you both now more than ever." "Then what do we need to do?" Leila asked eagerly. "We must first unlock the full potential of your marks," he explained thoughtfully. "To do this, you will undergo training, learning not just how to harness your powers, but also how to protect yourselves from those who may seek to exploit them." Ilara felt a sense of relief wash over her as she listened to him speak. Perhaps this was what they had been searching for all along. A way to understand their heritage while ensuring safety for themselves and their village. "Will you help us?" Leila asked earnestly. I will guide you," he promised, a glimmer of determination shining in his eyes. "But remember, each choice you make will shape your destinies. Tread carefully on this path." With newfound resolve invigorating her spirit, Lila looked at Alara and saw a reflection of hope mirrored back at her. Together, they would embark on this journey into magic and self-discovery, not just as mother and daughter, but as protectors bound by destiny. As dusk faded into night around them and stars began to twinkle above like watchful eyes in the dark sky, Lila felt a thrill of excitement surge through her, a promise of adventures yet to come, and the unveiling of secrets that had long remained hidden. The following day, as dawn broke and painted the sky in soft pastels, Lila awoke with a sense of purpose. The Vampire King's words echoed in her mind, igniting a fire within her. She felt a powerful urge to uncover the truth about their shared past and the legacy connected to their marks. Determined, she decided to take action. "Mom, we have to go back to the forest today," Lila said over breakfast, excitement bubbling in her voice. "I want to help the Vampire King find out more about our mark and what we can do with it." Alara looked up from her plate, concern etched on her face. "Lila, I understand your enthusiasm, but this is not a game. There are dangers that come with seeking such knowledge." "I know, Mom," Lila replied, her eyes shining with determination. "But think about it. We have a chance to learn about our history and how to protect ourselves. We need to embrace this opportunity." Alara paused for a moment, torn between her instinct to protect Lila and her daughter's eagerness for adventure. She finally sighed and nodded. "All right. But we must be cautious and stay together." As they made their way back into the enchanted forest, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The sunlight filtered through the treetops, creating patterns on the ground that seemed to guide their steps. Lila felt exhilarated, her heart pounding with excitement at the thought of discovering more about her family's legacy. When they reached the glade where they had met the Vampire King before, he was already waiting for them, his figure partially concealed by shadows. As they approached, he stepped forward into the light. "Welcome back," he said, his voice smooth and inviting. "I see the spark of determination in your eyes. Are you ready to embark on a quest for the truth?" Lila nodded eagerly. "Yes, we want to help you learn more about our mark and our past." The Vampire King smiled approvingly. "Excellent. But know that this journey will be filled with challenges. The path of knowledge isn't always easy." "What kind of challenges?" Alara asked, her protective instincts flaring once again. "Those who seek to control knowledge often guard it fiercely," he explained. "You may encounter obstacles created by dark forces who wish to exploit the power tied to your mark." Lila felt a thrill of fear mixed with excitement at his words. "We're ready for whatever comes our way," she declared boldly. "Very well," the Vampire King responded, his expression serious yet encouraging. "Our first task is to find an ancient artifact known as the Mirror of Reflections. It is said to reveal hidden truths about one's lineage and powers." "Where do we find it?" Lila asked, bouncing on her toes in anticipation. "It lies deep within the Whispering Caves," he explained, pointing toward a distant part of the forest where the trees thickened and shadows deepened ominously. "But be warned, the caves are home to creatures that can confuse and mislead even the most resolute hearts." Alara's brow furrowed at this warning, but Lila's spirit was undeterred. "We can do this together, right, Mom?" "Yes," Alara replied with determination in her voice. "Together we will face whatever challenges arise." With that agreement sealing their commitment, they set off toward the Whispering Caves. The path quickly became narrow and winding as they ventured deeper into the woods. The air grew cooler, and strange sounds echoed around them, whispers that seemed to call out from beyond the trees. As they neared the entrance of the caves, an unsettling sensation washed over Lila. "Do you feel that?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Alara replied, glancing around warily. "Stay close." The entrance to the caves loomed ahead like an open mouth ready to swallow them whole. Shadows danced along its rocky walls as if alive, while faint echoes rippled through the air. "Remember," the Vampire King instructed as they stood before the cave mouth. "Trust your instincts and each other. The truth may not come easily." Taking a deep breath, Lila stepped forward first, followed closely by Alara and the Vampire King. As they entered the cave's darkness, a soft glow illuminated their surroundings, glimmering crystals embedded in the walls, casting shimmering reflections all around them. "Look!" Lila exclaimed as she pointed toward a shimmering pool at the far end of the cavern. The mirror of reflections must be near. But just as they moved closer, a low growl echoed through the cave, a warning that they were not alone. From the shadows emerged a creature formed of darkness itself, eyes glowing like embers in its shadowy face. "Defend yourselves," shouted the Vampire King as he stepped forward protectively. Lila felt a rush of adrenaline as she stood beside her mother and their powerful ally, ready to confront whatever lay ahead on this perilous quest for truth that would define their destinies forever. As Lila, Alara, and the Vampire King stood at the entrance of the Whispering Caves, a chill ran down Lila's spine. The low growl of the creature echoed in the darkness, sending a shiver through her. She tightened her grip on her mother's hand. "What do we do?" she whispered, her heart racing. "Stay close to me and trust your instincts," the Vampire King instructed firmly, stepping forward to confront the dark creature that had emerged from the shadows. Its glowing eyes fixed on them, brimming with a predatory hunger. The creature lunged forward with surprising speed. But the Vampire King raised his hand, and a wave of shimmering energy enveloped him. "You shall not pass," he declared, his voice echoing powerfully in the cave. With a flick of his wrist, tendrils of light shot out toward the creature, momentarily stunning it. Lila felt a surge of courage wash over her. This was their chance. "Let's go," she shouted, pulling Alara along as they darted past the startled beast. They dashed deeper into the caves, where the soft glow from embedded crystals illuminated their path. However, the air grew thick with enchantment as they ventured further into darkness. Strange whispers filled their ears, echoes from long-forgotten spirits that seemed to be warning them or guiding them. "Listen," Alara urged as they paused briefly to catch their breath. "Do you hear that?" "I do," Lila replied, her senses heightened. The whispers were growing louder now, almost melodic, but tinged with an unsettling undertone. "I think they want us to follow." "Be cautious," warned the Vampire King as he glanced around warily. These caves are known for playing tricks on travelers. Despite his warning, Lila felt an irresistible pull toward one particular direction, where a shimmer danced in the air like a mirage. "We should follow it," she insisted, determination fueling her steps. As they advanced cautiously toward the shimmering light, they encountered more obstacles along their way. Suddenly, vines sprang up from the ground, thick and thorny, wrapping around their legs like serpents trying to ensnare them. "Help!" Lila cried out as she struggled against them. The Vampire King quickly stepped in front of Alara and Lila and summoned a burst of energy that sliced through the vines with ease. You must remain focused, he urged them as they continued onward. With every step deeper into the cave system, challenges arose. Illusions that made it appear as though they were walking in circles or paths that shifted underfoot like waves. Each time doubt crept into Lila's mind about whether they would ever find what they were searching for. She remembered her mother's presence beside her and drew strength from it. Finally, after what felt like hours of navigating through enchanting yet treacherous passages, filled with strange creatures lurking just beyond sight and enchanted obstacles testing their resolve at every turn, they stumbled upon a grand chamber bathed in ethereal light. At its center stood an enormous pool of water that reflected not just their images, but also scenes from places long past, the mirror of reflections. It shimmered invitingly, like liquid silver under its own light. Lila gasped in awe as she stepped closer to its edge, but hesitated when she noticed shadowy figures dancing just beneath the surface. Visions of ancestors long gone, intertwined with whispers calling out to her. "This is it," she exclaimed breathlessly. But before she could reach for it, another growl erupted behind them. The dark creature had followed. "We need to defend ourselves again," Alara shouted as she positioned herself protectively in front of Lila while the Vampire King prepared to confront this new threat once more. "Trust me," he said urgently before turning toward Lila and Alara with fierce determination in his eyes. "Together we can overcome this obstacle." With hearts pounding and adrenaline rushing through their veins, Lila felt an unexplainable connection to both her mother and the Vampire King, a bond forged through shared purpose and destiny. "Let's do this," Lila shouted as they stood united against whatever darkness lay ahead, ready to harness not just power, but also courage born from love, to face whatever trials awaited them on this perilous journey for truth that would forever change their lives. With hearts still racing from their encounter with the dark creature, Layla, Alara, and the Vampire King stood before the shimmering mirror of reflections. The air around them felt charged with energy, and the soft glow from the mirror illuminated their faces, revealing a mix of awe and determination. Leela stepped closer to the mirror, peering into its depths. She could see images swirling within, visions of her ancestors and moments from her family's past that echoed through time. It was captivating, but she also felt a weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. "This is incredible," she breathed, glancing back at the Vampire King. "What do we do now?" The Vampire King approached the mirror with reverence. "You must focus on your lineage and what you wish to uncover," he instructed. "Your thoughts will guide the reflection." Taking a deep breath, Lila closed her eyes and thought about her family, the love they shared, and their hidden pasts. As she opened her eyes again, she saw images begin to solidify in the mirror. Her mother as a young woman with fierce determination in her eyes, standing alongside others in battle against shadows. "It's our family," Lila exclaimed, pointing at the image. Ilara stepped closer, tears welling up in her eyes as she recognized her younger self fighting valiantly beside those who bore similar marks. "I didn't know. I had forgotten," she whispered. The Vampire King watched them closely, sensing the emotional bond strengthening between mother and daughter as they faced this revelation together. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "You are not alone in this journey." Lila turned to him, feeling grateful for his presence. "Thank you for guiding us," she said sincerely. "I never would have found this without you." A faint smile crossed the Vampire King's lips as he saw how their connection deepened through shared experiences and newfound understanding. "It is my duty to protect those marked for greatness," he replied humbly. Just then, The calm atmosphere shifted abruptly. As shadows flickered across the walls of the cave, another threat emerged. The dark creature had returned, more menacing than before. Its glowing eyes fixated on them with an insatiable hunger. "We need to defend ourselves again," Alara shouted instinctively as she positioned herself protectively in front of Lila. "Wait!" Layla cried out suddenly, feeling a surge of courage rising within her. She grasped Alara's arm and stepped forward confidently toward the looming creature beside their ally. "We can face this together." The Vampire King nodded approvingly at Lila's bravery, but remained vigilant against their enemy. "Together, we will harness our powers," he declared. As they prepared to confront the beast once more, Lila felt an unexplainable bond forged between herself and the Vampire King. A friendship born from mutual respect, forged in battle against darkness. With a nod from Alara affirming her support, Lila concentrated on their shared mark, the crescent moon entwined with vines, and directed its energy toward the creature with all her might. A bright light surrounded them as they joined forces. Lila felt warmth radiate from both her mother and the Vampire King, strengthening their connection further. "Now!" shouted the Vampire King as he unleashed a wave of energy that intertwined with Lila's own burst of light. The combined forces surged toward the dark creature like a brilliant explosion. The creature roared in defiance, but was caught off guard by their united strength. The force pushed it back into shadows until it let out one final growl before dissipating into nothingness. Panting heavily but filled with adrenaline, Lila turned to Alara and the Vampire King in awe. They had faced danger together, not just as allies, but as friends bonded by purpose. "I can't believe we did it!" Lila exclaimed joyfully, looking back between them both. "You showed great courage today," the Vampire King praised sincerely, while offering a small nod of respect toward Alara as well. "This moment has strengthened your connection, not only to each other, but also to your legacy." Alara wiped away tears of relief, mixed with pride, before wrapping an arm around Lila's shoulders tightly. "I'm so proud of you for standing strong." As they caught their breath amid lingering echoes of victory throughout the cave chamber, filled with shimmering crystals reflecting their triumph, the bond forged between them was undeniable. It was not only about discovering their past, but also building new friendships that would carry them forward into whatever lay ahead. With renewed determination surging through them all, and hearts intertwined by courage, they turned back toward the mirror of reflections, ready to unlock even more secrets waiting within. United as one family destined for greatness together under shimmering stars illuminating paths yet unseen. As Lila, Alara, and the Vampire King caught their breath in the shimmering chamber of the Whispering Caves, a sense of urgency hung in the air. They had defeated the dark creature, but the feeling that a greater threat loomed still nagged at them. The Vampire King turned to Lila and Alara, his expression serious. "We have uncovered some of your family's history, but there is much more at stake," he said, his emerald eyes gleaming with determination. "A dark force stirs in the realm of vampires, threatening both our worlds. We must act swiftly." "What do you mean?" Lila asked, her heart racing at the thought of another confrontation. "The ancient prophecy speaks of a darkness that arises when the balance between our realms is disrupted." The Vampire King explained gravely. "This darkness seeks to consume both humans and vampires alike. We must gather our strength and prepare for the final showdown against this malevolence." Alara felt a chill run down her spine as she considered the implications of his words. "What can we do to stop it?" she asked, her protective instincts kicking in. "The first step is to unite our powers fully," he replied. "We must awaken the true potential of your marks. Together, we can create a barrier strong enough to repel the dark forces that threaten us." Lila stepped forward with newfound resolve. "Then let's do it. We've faced challenges before. We can face this too." The Vampire King nodded approvingly. "Very well. But remember, this will require not just strength, but trust in one another." They moved toward the center of the chamber, where the mirror of reflections still shimmered invitingly. The Vampire King instructed them to stand together, forming a triangle around the mirror so that their energies could intertwine. "Concentrate on your mark," he said, his voice resonating with authority. "Channel your emotions, your love for each other, and your desire to protect what is dear to you." Lila closed her eyes as she focused on the crescent moon entwined with vines on her wrist. She visualized its power radiating outward, connecting her to both her mother and the Vampire King. A warm light enveloped them as they concentrated. In that moment, Lila felt her heart beating in sync with Alara's and the Vampire King's, a rhythm of unity that pulsed with magic. She opened her eyes to see swirling lights dancing around them, merging into a vibrant tapestry of energy. Suddenly, a crack echoed through the cave, breaking their concentration. Shadows began to swirl ominously around them, thickening like fog rolling in from an unseen danger. A chilling laugh reverberated off the stone walls. "Foolish beings," a voice boomed from the shadows. "You dare challenge me?" From the depths of darkness emerged a figure cloaked in shadows, its features indistinguishable, but exuding an aura of malevolence that chilled Lila to her core. It was a dark entity, an embodiment of fear that sought to extinguish their newfound light. With a surge of courage, Lila stepped forward once more. "We are not afraid of you," she shouted defiantly. "Brave words from a child," it sneered back, its voice dripping with malice. "You think your little powers can save you?" The Vampire King raised his hand and summoned a barrier of light around them. "We will protect our realms," he declared fiercely. As the dark entity lunged toward them, Lila felt an electric rush flow through her veins, a surge of power emanating from her connection with Alara and the Vampire King. In unison, they raised their hands toward the approaching darkness. "Together!" they shouted in unison. A wave of light exploded from their marks, intertwining and expanding into a brilliant energy blast that surged toward the dark figure. The cave shook as light and shadow collided in an epic confrontation. "No!" the creature shrieked as it was engulfed by their combined force. The shadows writhed and twisted violently before being pushed back into nothingness. Breathless from exertion and emotion, Lila looked at her mother and the Vampire King, both equally stunned yet triumphant. They had faced down a powerful foe together, united by strength forged through adversity. As silence fell over the chamber and peace returned to the air, Lila felt a bond stronger than ever before between them all. A friendship born not just from shared experiences, but also from trust and love. "Thank you for believing in me," she said softly to both Alara and the Vampire King, gratitude shining in her eyes. Alara pulled Lila close, pride swelling in her heart. "We did this together," she replied warmly. "There is still much work ahead," the Vampire King cautioned gently but with respect in his tone. "But today marks a victory, a step towards fulfilling your destinies." With renewed determination filling their hearts and minds, they prepared to leave the Whispering Caves behind, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them next, while knowing they would face it together as friends bound by fate. As the dust settled after their climactic battle in the Whispering Caves, Lila, Ilara, and the Vampire King stood together, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline of the confrontation. The chamber was now filled with a serene glow, and the air felt lighter, as if the shadows that had threatened them were finally vanquished for good. Lila turned to her mother, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "We did it, Mom. We faced that darkness together." Ilara smiled warmly, pride swelling in her chest. "Yes, we did. I couldn't have done it without you and our friend here." She nodded toward the Vampire King, who watched them both with a knowing gaze. "The bond you have forged is strong," he said, his voice deep yet reassuring. "But this victory is only a part of your journey. There is still much for you to learn, not just about your powers, but also about your place in both our worlds." Lila's excitement bubbled over at his words. "What do you mean? How do I fit into both worlds?" The Vampire King gestured for them to follow him deeper into the cave. "We must continue our exploration of the Mirror of Reflections," he said as they walked. "There are more truths waiting to be revealed." They arrived at the shimmering pool once again, its surface reflecting not only their current forms, but also images of places and people from ages past. Lila felt a flutter of anticipation in her heart as she approached the mirror. "Focus on what you wish to discover," he instructed gently. "Think about your family and how they connect with both humans and vampires." Taking a deep breath, Lila closed her eyes and envisioned her ancestors, those brave women and men who had fought for light against darkness. In her mind's eye, she pictured herself standing side by side with them, embodying their strength and courage. When she opened her eyes again, scenes began to swirl within the mirror. Visions of women wearing the same crescent moon mark as hers, battling alongside vampires against shadowy foes to protect their lands. She gasped as she recognized one woman, her grandmother, fighting valiantly with determination etched across her face. "Mom, look," Lila exclaimed, pointing at the reflection. "That's Grandma. She was a warrior too." Ilara stepped closer, tears brimming in her eyes as she saw the familiar face reflected back at them. "I had heard stories about her bravery, but never knew she was part of such battles." The Vampire King nodded knowingly. "Your lineage runs deep with warriors marked for greatness. You have inherited not just power, but also a legacy of protection." Lila felt a surge of pride wash over her as she absorbed this newfound knowledge. It dawned on her that she was not alone. There were countless others before her who had faced similar challenges and fought for what was right. And your role is not just to inherit this legacy. It is now your turn to carry it forward. He continued, his voice steady and firm. "You will protect both humans and vampires alike." "But how?" Lila asked earnestly. "I'm just a girl from a small village." "No," he replied gently but firmly. "You are so much more than that. Your heart holds the strength of generations. Together with your mother and myself, you can create balance between our worlds." As Lila listened to him speak, she felt an unbreakable bond forming between them all, a shared purpose that transcended their differences. The trials they had faced together had changed them. They were no longer just allies, but a family bound by destiny. With renewed determination surging through her veins, Lila looked at Ilara and then back at the Vampire King. "I want to protect our world. I want to learn everything I can." "Then let us begin this new chapter," he said with a smile that warmed their hearts. "We will train together, strengthening your powers while deepening your connection to both realms." As they prepared to leave the cave behind, the echoes of their victory still ringing in their ears. Lila felt an overwhelming sense of hope fill her spirit. She understood now that she had a vital role in preserving harmony between humans and vampires. Alara wrapped an arm around Lila's shoulders as they walked out into the light filtering through the trees outside, their bond stronger than ever before, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them next. This was not merely an ending. It was a beautiful beginning, a chance for Lila to explore who she truly was destined to be while honoring those who had come before her. A legacy that would guide her steps forward on this extraordinary journey through life intertwined with magic. As they stepped out of the whispering caves and into the soft light of dawn, Lila felt a new sense of purpose settling within her. The victory they had achieved together against the dark creature had not only strengthened their bond, but had also awakened something deep inside her. A connection to her heritage and the responsibilities that came with it. Looking at Alara, she saw a reflection of pride and warmth in her mother's eyes. "You're a warrior now, just like Grandma," Alara said softly, pulling Lila into a comforting embrace. "I'm so proud of you for facing your fears." "Thanks, Mom," Lila replied, feeling a rush of gratitude. "I wouldn't have been able to do it without you or the Vampire King." She glanced over at him, who stood slightly apart, watching them with an approving expression. The Vampire King nodded, recognizing the newfound strength in Lila and Alara. "You have both taken significant steps in understanding your roles in this world," he said. "But remember, this is just the beginning. The challenges may be great, but so are your abilities. You are not just marked for greatness. You are destined to embody it." Lila felt a fire igniting within her as she absorbed his words. It was exhilarating to realize that she belonged to something much larger than herself. A legacy of warriors who fought for balance between light and darkness. She thought back to the visions they had seen in the mirror of reflections. Those brave ancestors were now a part of her story. "Where do we go from here?" Lila asked, her voice filled with excitement and determination. "We train and prepare," the Vampire King replied firmly. "There will be more threats as long as darkness seeks to disrupt our realms. But with training, unity, and trust, you will unlock your true potential." Alara stepped forward. "We'll face whatever comes our way together," she affirmed, her voice steady and resolute. The sense of camaraderie among them was palpable. They were no longer just allies, but a family bound by shared experiences. As they made their way back through the enchanted forest, Lila couldn't help but reflect on what she had learned during their journey. It wasn't just about discovering her powers or embracing her family's history. It was also about friendship. The kind that transcends fear and uncertainty. "Do you think we'll always be able to face darkness together?" Lila asked, glancing up at both the Vampire King and her mother. "Together, we can overcome anything," Alara assured her with a smile that warmed Lila's heart. The Vampire King added, "True strength lies not focused in individual power, but in the connections we share with those we care about." With each step they took back toward their village, Lila felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. The shadows of doubt that once clouded her mind were replaced by clarity. She belonged here, not just in the human world, but also in the realm of vampires. When they finally emerged from the trees into the familiar sights of their village, Lila took a deep breath, filling her lungs with fresh air infused with possibility. She looked around at the houses and gardens that held so many memories. The laughter of children playing, neighbors greeting one another, All felt more vibrant now in light of what she had experienced. I want to share what I've learned with everyone, Lila declared suddenly, inspiration bubbling over. They should know about our history and how we can protect each other. Alara beamed at her daughter's enthusiasm. That's a wonderful idea. You can inspire others to stand strong against darkness, too. The Vampire King nodded thoughtfully. Yes, sharing your story will strengthen bonds within your community. It's vital for both humans and vampires to understand their shared fates. As they began walking toward home together, mother, daughter, and friend, they knew they were embarking on their next adventure. One filled with teaching others about courage, friendship, and embracing one's heritage. In that moment, under the clear sky painted with early morning hues of gold and blue, Lila felt an overwhelming peace settle within her heart. She was ready to embrace whatever awaited them next. An exciting new beginning infused with love and light as they prepared to protect both worlds together against any future darkness that dared to threaten their harmony.